We want to welcome everyone to our information session with an employer enterprise rent-a-car. We're really excited to have Marcus Everett with us today. And so Marcus, I'll start by just asking you some questions, and if there are questions in the chat, we will try to cover those at the end. But let's start with the first one. Just introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about the work that you do at Enterprise.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, first of all, for obviously taking the time out to let us talk about Enterprise, and myself included. I am the Group Talent Acquisition Manager, which basically means anything having to do with hiring and selection for Central and Northwest Texas, if you will. So it's about 95 locations that we staff, from everything from our part-time positions to our career opportunities. I also am in charge of anything in our internal career path, hiring and selection on that, and as well as anything training and development related for legal interview compliance. So if it has something to do with interviewing, it's my department.
Awesome.
I run a team of 3 recruiters, and I've been with Enterprise since January 2007. Been on the recruiting side since January 2011. So good times. I've had the opportunity to work started here in the Austin Metro, worked here for a few years, spent a couple of years working in North Carolina, running recruiting for a division out there, and then got to come back where I started to run this division now. So pretty cool stuff.
That's awesome. So tell us about the culture at Enterprise.
The culture is, it's funny. Well, the way I describe it to students is we like to joke around here that it's kind of like going to college all over again. And what I mean by that is that since we do start everyone in the entry level position, we've all been there, done that. It doesn't matter if you're 2 weeks out of college or 20 years out of college. You're going to start in our management training program. So I think the culture is similar to a university aspect, in the sense that when you start off with us, you're kind of that freshman trying to figure out where everything is and what's going on. And then once you get past that first initial position, you get your first promotion. That's really where we start to get into more of the sophomore, like, okay, I know where all the classes are, but I really don't know exactly, everything yet. And ultimately progressing through the different stages when you finish our management training program and get into a management role, that's where we consider it to be, graduating, if you will. But we only hire people that are outgoing and people, as I like to say. So naturally, we have a pretty good time in our branches and with each other. And I like to say everyone has their friends, their work friends, and then some people you work with. And we always like to say that we generally, blur those lines as far as, between work friend and friend, and definitely,
That's cool.
It's a family environment, if you will. So we have a good time.
That's great. So tell us about some of the benefits of working at Enterprise.
So similar to my previous answer, the progression, it's a clear-cut career path. The situation, like myself, I'm a recruiter and I'm recruiting for those positions that, I did. And if you go from all the way up to the CEO of our company, she started as a management trainee. So I think that, the progression is probably the biggest appeal. Everyone has that clear-cut career path, and you know exactly what's expected, and to get from A to Z is the same from everybody. And it's like running that race where you know exactly what's expected and you know what the goals are. So promote from within is all we do for any of our management roles. And I think that that's why we have such a good culture, as a matter of fact, because you can never go to your manager and say, hey, you don't know what it's like to do this, because, well, actually, I do know what it's like to do this because I've done it myself, and let me help you. Let me pay it forward just the same way that someone did for me.
That's great. So if you were to just tell us some of the qualities that you're looking for in an ideal candidate to start an Enterprise, tell us what you're looking for.
I think, I alluded to it in one of my previous answers, but the positivity is going to be key. Outgoing and positive, those are important. But I think number one, honestly, and I tell this to every candidate that we hire, you have to have patience and vision. And I think that this is just renting cars if you come here and work for us for 6 months. The really building towards a career. And when we invest in somebody, we can hire people all day to be great, customer service reps, which there's nothing wrong with doing that. But what we're looking for is leaders and people who have that vision for long-term investment in a career opportunity. That's why we hire college graduates, because you show that you can progress and accomplish a goal. Obviously being outgoing and positive, but having that bigger picture and being patient, that's going to serve them well in the sense for their own career and also with our customers. The empathy is really important these days, and we do believe in old-fashioned customer service where you're not just an agent. Our customers know us by our names, and we want to
Mm,
know our customers' names. So someone who's really passionate about being in that type of business is very important. Anybody who has a background in customer service, restaurant, hospitality,
mm.
things like that definitely translate well. Retail translates well into our environment. So those are kind of the main qualities that we look for. Any student involvement, any sort of leadership qualities are going to serve them well as well. But we can work with just about any degree. But if you don't have that positive attitude and you're not interested in making a long-term investment, I tell people quite honestly, this is a 1 to 2 year investment for it to really pay off and get into those management roles. And that's kind of the whole point. When you're hiring someone to be in a management trainee position, we want you to be a manager. And we have to develop from within because that's all we do.
Great. So because we're recording this and we are expecting that there will be some of our students that will go back and watch this at a time that's convenient for them, I think it's important that we recognize we're recording this on April the 29th of 2020. And so times are really hard in our nation right now, and there's a lot going on. So we're about to move into a section of our questions that is really applicable to this particular time. And so I just want to ask you, tell us about the current situation for enterprise due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Absolutely. The transportation industry as a whole is definitely, this has been a very unique time. There's been similar situations in the past where travel has been impacted tremendously, but briefly. This is a long-term impact, and much like the airline and cruise industry, there's just not as many people that have the demand to travel right now. I mean, when we're all staying home, not a lot of travel, not a lot of need, if you will, for rental cars. Our business is definitely down, and it's challenging, but our people have been, our employees have been fantastic about it, great attitude, and it's going to be a long road back, I think, for a lot of the transportation industry. But when you build a solid company, when you build a private family-owned company, there's a sense of pride there. And when we look up all the way to our senior leadership, and we hear them talking about, hey, this is a challenging time for everybody, not just us, but we're going to get through this together. Uh, I know everyone says that a lot in general, but I know it's something that we see every day, and we've seen every day for the last 45, 60 days, however long it's been now, since we've started to see this decline. The need will be there. People will always need to get from point A to point B. But it's probably in everybody's best interest right now that we don't have that many people on our branches. We don't have that many people renting cars at this very moment, because number one thing is for us to get through this. And when I say us, I don't mean enterprise, I mean everybody.
Sure.
So yes, it's been a big challenge. Our business is down significantly, but we'll get through it because our people are our number one thing. I mean, it's what we're all about is the people business, and that internal and external. So it's challenging right now, but we'll be back and better than ever.
Awesome. So many of our students, I'm thinking about what a great partner you all have been, Enterprise. You've been at our career fair as long as I know, and as long as I can remember. When I was a WT student, Enterprise was recruiting at WT. So we love your commitment to recruiting college graduates, and we thank you for all that you've done for WT and for our students. So let's say that one of our students met you last fall at the Career Expo, and they were thinking, you know what, I'm really going to apply for that management training program at Enterprise. And now all of a sudden, some of our students are finding that the company they really want to work for is not hiring. So as our students apply for positions at various companies, they may not be hearing back from employers right now. And in normal times, that might be an indication that the employer is just not interested. But during these tough economic times, that story could be very different. Can you describe the environment from an HR perspective during this pandemic? Like, I'm assuming you're receiving some great applications. So how do things get handled like right now when you're kind of maybe not in a hiring phase?
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. The situation is a tough one, but I tell this when I talk to students about a topic like this, I always tell them, this is a two-way street. This is, the company that you're thinking about working for. Obviously, you want to make a good impression on them, and you want to put your best foot forward to represent yourself well. But they've got to do that as well. It's a two-way street, like I said. So we take it very seriously here, as far as making contact with everyone and anyone that does apply in one way or another. And when the situation started, when we really started to realize, just how greatly this was going to impact our business, we took the time to contact every single one of our applicants or anyone that was in the interview process or anyone that had been extended an offer, and be honest and open with them. Is every company going to be able to do that? It's probably not likely. I think it's all about the approach. If you're a student who really has a company that they're really passionate about, you're going, just because you don't get a response the first time doesn't necessarily mean that it's no forever.
Hmm.
I do think it has a lot to do with the way you approach the situation. So take the assumptive approach that, hey, I understand, you have to acknowledge the situation and say, I understand, everybody's business is down and the economy in general is going through hard times, but I want you to know that I'm very passionate about working for X, Y, and Z company, and I will continue to follow up with you. But also maybe ask for a timeline. Do you have any idea when you might, when things might be back to normal? When should I expect to hear back, or something to that effect? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And absolutely, for us, when we get that type of question, we're very honest. This is, we don't have an answer to that just yet, but for us, we just hit pause, and that's kind of the way we see it. We're
Hmm.
not going to, not follow back up with you because this happened, but we're going to be honest, and when the time comes, we're going to be chomping at the bit to get back to those people. And I'll tell you what, we're the ones that we're going to really want to talk to the most are the people that have continued to follow up, and the people that have made it very clear that they're passionate about, our opportunity, not just an opportunity. So I think it's very true of not just a job search, but the way life in general, and how you approach something. So my advice to students in this situation would be acknowledge it up front, ask for some realistic expectations, and then follow those expectations, follow those instructions, if you will. Now, if you never hear back from a company after you try a couple of times, it might change your impression, honestly. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's going to be lots of opportunities, but your students are going to have to think outside the box, at least for the next few months.
So I love what you said about how you wanted people to follow up with you. And I think that's such an awkward feeling for our students, the whole follow-up thing. So could you just give us a little coaching on that? Speak to our students and what is an appropriate way to follow up, and like, do you want daily phone calls? Of course not. Okay. But would you share with them, like, what do you consider, like, at what point have they crossed the line to being annoying?
Absolutely. Listen, I think that email is always going to be a really good way to
Okay.
contact recruiters in general, or companies or hiring managers in general. There's a lot of different reasons. One, everyone's working a different level of priorities right now. People are working non-traditional kind of schedules right now. A lot of people are staying home to educate their children, and that means that maybe they might not be able to take your call at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, but they can get to your email later in the evening and respond and give you an update. But that's usually true most of the time, but even more so right now. I think that, once again, asking for expectations, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with when you reach out to somebody, whether it be a recruiter or a hiring manager. Hey, I'm interested in your company. Like I said before, what's a good time frame to follow back up with you? I think, if you want to know something, you got to ask.
It's good.
And that would be, the easy answer. If you want a real answer, I think that, once a week is a sane level of contact. Once a day might be a little crossing the line.
Okay.
It also just depends on the situation. If
Mhm.
it's just a formal introduction, yeah, once a week. But if it's something, that's, hey, I've got a job offer out there and you told me you want me to start, on Monday and I haven't heard from you. Yeah, then that's a little bit different situation. And I think that that's something where it's definitely warranted to kind of up the contact points. But once again, it goes back to what I said previously. I think that good companies with good people are going to put situations like that at the top of their list. Well, whether it's trying times like now or not. But my expectation, honestly, from my team is to return communication within one business day, and I think that that's pretty much a professional courtesy, not just in a recruiting field, if you will, but in a business field and in a business sense, rather overall. No one wants to be. I mean, it's great to have that instant gratification and get an email response in a minute, but that's not realistic. And I think that
Mhm.
a one business day is a pretty good expectation.
Thank you. So our students, they have rent and bills to pay and so forth. And let's say that we've got some new college graduates that are looking for work right now. Do you think it looks bad on a resume for students to take a job that may not require a degree um, when they want to pursue employment with a company that's not hiring? So, right now they just need a job. Any thoughts about
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I think it looks bad to do the opposite, of what you just said.
Okay.
I think it looks bad to not have, it might be a little tougher to find a job for a few months. But not having any job might be a little bit, I don't want to say it might be bad, but it might give the wrong impression.
Okay.
I think for us, whether it's now or before this or after this, we value a work ethic. We value someone that's dedicated, and I think that that should be the case always. So there's going to be lots of situations where, hey, I want to do X, but I can't do that right now. There's a lot of cheats, if you will. Okay, well, let me look at LinkedIn and see what type of experience people that work for that company had before they worked there, and you'd be surprised. I mean, a lot of our people work, like I said earlier, in restaurant or retail and things like that. Which, well, okay, maybe right this second might be a little bit challenging, but that'll change. But absolutely, I think Amber, any sort of, if you can't get a job, if you can go out and volunteer, or hey,
That's
I
good.
put in 20 hours a week at the food bank because that's what that kind of stuff is really important right now. I mean, and that'll just show that you really have that drive, that go-getter kind of attitude. So, you know, it, something showing that you're doing something is always more valuable than hanging out at home. Let's put it that way.
That's good. So we have several students we've surveyed our students, and we had a great response from our students. A large number of students responded. The results were really honestly real sad. Many of our students are being laid off or furloughed from their positions. We've had many students whose internships have been canceled, and so as we think about that, how would you coach a student if they've been laid off from their job?
So attitude is the most important part with this. I've seen, I'm on LinkedIn every day, and I've seen all kinds of messages and all kinds of approaches to people being laid off or furloughed. And there's been some that, even within our own company, where I've been very proud of the way our employees have handled themselves, and the way they approach it. So positivity. If you introduce me to one person who doesn't like someone with a positive attitude, I'll be shocked. The way you approach life and the way you project yourself outwardly, especially in a professional environment, is going to get you so far. A lot, we have a saying around here that every day is an interview. And it's true. It's so true. There's so many times where, that one day, Steve or Carl or whoever went above and beyond and had the positive attitude when everyone else had a negative attitude. And that's more important now, more than ever. These things that we're talking about are temporary. Everyone's, chomping at the bit to get, back into, society, if you will, and go out to that restaurant, or go window shop at, Target or whatever it is. that stuff is coming back. So we're talking about a temporary situation, and you would hate for, to let your maybe momentary emotion ruin your opportunity long term. So no matter how you're feeling on the inside, and we've all been there, you've got to project that positivity and that professionalism, at all times. And I think that for students out there that are looking, that might find themselves in these situations and looking for new opportunities, it's definitely something where I think that's a great way to show just how positive you are by maybe posting something like that on a LinkedIn, or commenting on a company page or a recruiter's post or whatever it might be, that shows like, hey, I'm down, but I'm not out. I think that's the most important thing
It's
right now.
good. Well, and I think it's important to say that we know that employers are looking at social media and LinkedIn pages. And so that is not the arena to go out and vent your frustrations at an employer who's had to lay you off or furlough you. And that certainly would be a reflection on a candidate if you were interviewing them. And so I think just that's a really good warning. Sometimes we use our social media pages to really express our strong feelings about all kinds of things. And so keeping that professional, I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something more positive. How about that? Okay, so when things are back to normal, when things are better, and they will be, um, let's talk about the hiring process at Enterprise, just to give our students some coaching on that. But I will ask, I know that hiring is probably slowed way down. Are there any positions that you're still hiring for, or will that resume at some point? I know that you all promote from within and so forth. So could you speak to that?
So we are, like I said earlier, kind of paused right now.
Okay.
We'll be back. We're very, you're talking to a recruiter here, so we're very anxious to hit that unpause button.
Yes.
But no, for us at the moment right now, unfortunately, we're not adding anyone to our teams. Realistically speaking, there are people who, do contact us, and I've had several people say, hey, I'm really, I'm interested in enterprise, but I, obviously have bills to pay right now, so I'm going to go work here, but, please contact me when you guys are hiring again. And I think that the companies that are out there that are going to be ahead of the curve are the ones that are going to be doing that instead of waiting for people to come back to them. And I can tell you with 100% certainty that when we push that button, we are definitely going to be eager. We're not going to wait for the people to come to us. We're going to go out there and find them.
That's awesome. What specific instructions do you have when students are seeking employment with Enterprise? So a little about your application process, kind of what qualifications, minimum qualifications are you looking for in a new hire?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, it's as far as basic minimum qualifications, the bachelor's degree is
Okay.
important. We're looking for some sort of either customer service, leadership experience of some sort. So even if, maybe I've never worked at, actually had like people say this all the time, a real job, but they've been, heavily involved in, some sort of student organization or, volunteer opportunities or whatever it is, especially if they've assumed a leadership role. That's something that we look for. It's actually one of our qualifications. Some basic stuff that people sometimes overlook. To work for Enterprise, you do have to have a valid driver's license. That's important.
Oh, good.
You'd be surprised how many times people don't understand that.
Yes.
And you do have to be at least 18 years old. So those, for us, honestly, those are our minimum qualifications. We're really about getting people. We do contact every single applicant. Usually at the very least an email to follow up on their application, but usually it's at least an email and a phone call. We're more about getting people on, talking to somebody and making, our evaluations based on the conversation instead of an application or a resume. Those don't hurt, don't get me wrong, but those are we're usually going to contact everybody as long as we can actually have good contact information and go from there. But honestly, at the end of the day, what we're really looking for is the bachelor's degree, the customer service or sales experience, and or leadership and community involvement. That's our minimum qualifications.
That's awesome. They would apply online on your website, correct?
That is correct. Yes,
Perfect.
everything virtual these days, right?
Yes. So they would apply on your website. You've already spoke to about about candidates following up and what you look for on the resume. Can students apply for more than one opening within your company? So if they are open to going to different locations, I mean, are those opportunities posted separately, or is there kind of one pool? How does that work?
I appreciate you answering asking that question, because I think that's going to vary dramatically from company to company. So enterprise is, obviously nation and worldwide, and we actually post our positions one by one, market by market.
Okay.
So for us particularly, applying in multiple locations actually slows down the process, because we have
Oh.
recruiters based all over regionally. So then it's like, okay, who's going to contact them when? And so we have to clarify location preference first, which normally can slow down the process. That's not going to be the same for every company, but for ours, that's definitely the case. But what's different about us that you can work just about anywhere. We have opportunities all over the country and all over the world at this point. And you get to choose upfront where you'd like to be, which is the main reason that we ask people only apply for one
Mm.
location. Where versus some companies that it's just one big pool, and then you're being placed here, or hey, if you want to work for us, this is our one location, that's it. So that is one of the advantages about a company like this, and being able to say, hey, I want to live in Oregon. Well, I'll apply in Oregon. And that's pretty neat. And then especially mobility is a huge piece for us. We do promote from within, but it does really help if you're mobile, and when it's pretty cool to get paid to move across the country. I've done it a couple of times myself, and it's pretty neat to have someone come to your house and pack all your things for you. Actually, it's kind of weird, but you do appreciate it when you don't have to do it. Let's put it that way.
So that was very helpful. So students then should select like if they really want to be in Miami, Florida, let's say, that's the opportunity. They should choose the one they like best
Yeah, absolutely.
and apply for that opportunity.
And what's really unique about our situation too is that we don't necessarily, if you apply for, Miami, and Miami, doesn't have a need at that moment, or, you can always apply, back in Amarillo per se.
Mm-hmm.
We don't say one and done. You only get one chance. There will be multiple opportunities, which is pretty neat as well.
That's great. Tell us a little bit about what the interview process would look like. So you get all these applicants for the position, and then you start looking at those. So will you tell us a little bit about how you select who you'll interview, and then what that interview process would look like?
Sure. So for us, an initial interview is really dependent on those qualifications that I mentioned earlier, and ultimately career goals. We are going to try and talk to as many people as we can, and we normally are pretty good at getting a hold of over 80% of our applicants, which is not too bad, considering that some people, no matter how well you do, you're not going to talk to everybody all the time. But for us, once we get you on the phone, it's going to be more about confirming those qualifications, and then really talking about career goals. So we start, just to go ahead and walk you through the short version of our hiring process. We start with the initial application, and at that point, normally we're going to invite someone to self-schedule what we call a phone interview. Some people refer to it as a phone screening, which is just a 10-minute conversation more than anything. We're once again confirming those basic qualifications and really talking about what are your career goals. What are you looking to accomplish and achieve? And as long as someone understands what this program is about and has a good idea, sometimes you get people on the phone that, oh no, yeah, I don't really like customers or customer service. And then say, well, probably not the right career path for you, because that's pretty much what we do all day, every day. So it's one of those first feeling out type of conversations, making sure it's a good fit on both sides, on both parts, if you will. And then from there, we will go on to schedule a formal interview, a formal, longer form face-to-face interview. And that's either face-to-face in the local market or virtually, kind of like this, either through FaceTime, Skype, Zoom now as well. So that's our next step, and then from there we're pretty unique. The last part of our process is a two-part process where our candidates get an opportunity to spend about an hour in one of our branches doing an observation, interacting with the staff in their local market, getting them behind the scenes tour, getting to ask as many questions as they want. And then after that, they have a final interview with a hiring manager, who's usually a regional manager, kind of running all the branches in a particular city or section of a city if it's a larger metro. So and that's, so we essentially have a 4-step process. And we base most of our hiring decisions based on asking behavioral questions. Really getting to understand what someone what their experience is. And I don't necessarily mean work experience, but just experience in general, and going from there.
So some of what you touched on, I think it's really important to emphasize to our students the need to really research an opportunity before you apply. Like, know what you're applying for. And if you're applying for a job that is about customer service, and knowing what you're getting. So you can do that by researching the management trainee program at Enterprise. You can look at their website. You can meet them at a career fair and talk with them about the opportunity. But it's important that you know what it is that you're signing up for, so that you can, kind of pass through those steps through the interview process, without saying, now, what is it that you do again? Because that's certainly not going to be a green light, right, to continue moving someone along.
So Amber, I'm glad you said that, because that is one thing that no matter whether it's Enterprise or any company, there is no excuse nowadays not to know about the company and the position. There's so many resources available. Even 15 years ago when I was getting into the job market, there's so many more resources now. And everybody's got a LinkedIn page. Everybody's got a company careers website. Everyone's got. There's all kinds. There's a Glassdoor. There's the Muse. There's all kinds of ways you can find out information about companies, and that is definitely one of our, unfortunately, that's a big judge that we use to find out, hey, am I just looking for a job, or am I looking for this career? And it's just natural. If you're passionate about something, you're going to want to do the research and want to learn more about it, whether it's a job or something you're going to buy on Amazon. You're going to do your research and read the reviews, if you will. And so that's you can prepare some really good answers and say some really good things, but if you don't know the basics about the company or the position, that's going to be a pretty good indicator that, oh, is this really your first choice?
So good. So I loved when you talked earlier about students, and how if you can't find a job right now and you're really struggling, do something, volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
What other things could students be doing right now to prepare for the hiring rebound that will eventually come? So other thoughts about how they could be using their time?
So there's a couple of things that students will hear a lot, right? And I think that a lot of recruiters say soft skills, which those are great. And there's those are a lot harder to work on. Now you got a great staff of career services that can help you with those, but this is an excellent opportunity to really work on some hard skills, honestly. Hey, I can't, I'm not working right now, or I can't leave the house, or whatever it might be. Hey, have you ever thought about taking that Excel course? Hey, I've always wanted to learn how to code. Hey, I wanted to, there are so many resources out there, especially right now during this pandemic, where a lot of things that you had to pay for in the past are free. So this would be a really great time to work on some of those hard skills. Where do I start? What do I do? What hard skills should I work on? That's where the experts that are, at career services can really say, hey, you want to be in this industry? Let me tell you some of the hard skills that companies will be looking for. But there's some things that are going to be transferable no matter what the industry. Excel comes to mind, obviously. Anything Outlook related. Almost every company uses Microsoft Outlook, or Microsoft Office, or all those kind of programs. So anything you can do, whether it's PowerPoint, Publisher, whatever it might be, this is a great time to really sharpen those skills and be able to not just put it on a resume and hope they don't ask about it, but put it on a resume and I hope they ask about it, because I spent the last 3 weeks in quarantine working on my VLOOKUPs on Excel. That's a shout out for all my nerds out there, my Excel nerds. But just really great opportunity to focus on hard skills right now. I think I can't say that enough, because soft skills, you got to be around people to work on those usually. Now we can do it virtually, but you can be by yourself and really kind of grow your brain, if you will.
So good. Okay, so we have come to the end of our conversation. And so, Marcus, I just want to ask, is there anything else that you'd like to share with either our staff or those students that will listen and watch this video at some point? Any other advice or thoughts that you have?
I actually have a follow-up question, if I
Okay,
could.
great.
Oh,
We
sorry.
didn't really plan for these, but at
Yes.
the very beginning and kind of throughout, Marcus, you talked a lot about positivity. You talked about empathy. Are those skills, I mean, are you guys doing Clifton Strengths? Is that something that Enterprise does?
Not formally, let's put it that way.
Okay.
But when you're in the business that we're in, it doesn't take a lot to be able to figure that kind of stuff out. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a lot of conversations on a daily basis, and anyone that's ever worked in customer service will really know that empathy is really what most customers are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And how you approach a conversation is going to really determine what the outcome of that conversation is. If I come, and that's really one of the things that we train our customers or rather employees on how they approach our customers. It's not a lot of times it's not even what you say, it's how you say it, and that's so important when you're talking to customers who have an issue or a concern or whatever that might need a resolution. And I think that if I tell you how something is instead of ask you how you think it should be, those are two conversations. If we can just figure out where am I at and where are you at and how can we meet in the middle, that's important. So we learn a lot about how to do that, and some people will call it conflict resolution. I think that sounds a little aggressive in this kind of environment, if you will, but ultimately that's what you're kind of doing. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I felt like there's some good stuff to say.
Yeah, so you don't have any kind of formal assessments that you give on a regular basis?
We do. We actually do, but we do that. That stuff actually comes when we get into it. That's more of our internal training for our management. Once the management training program is complete, we do a lot of follow-up training with our managers. We do quarterly trainings with our management team, and actually, there's a lot of communication style assessments and a lot of different tools that we use to develop those skills. But we want them to get through that management training program first and foremost.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Back to your question, Amber, right?
Yes.
Listen, I think this is a great opportunity for us to really, I don't even want to talk about enterprise for this last part. I just want to talk about, I think that, this is a great opportunity for us to stop and think about, what are we doing and how kind are we to each other on a daily basis? And this is a challenging time for, not just us here, in the United States, but worldwide. And I think that we should all take a lot away from this and just realize, when we're all in our houses, saying, "Oh, I miss people so much." Well, did we really take the time to be as kind to everyone as we could? And I think coming out of this, if we don't really stop and think about that moving forward, we miss the point of what it is to be around each other. So that's some nice stuff to say, but it speaks to some of the things I said earlier about, when it comes down to it, a lot of this stuff, you can have all the skills, you can have a great resume, but ultimately, people are going to want to work with people that are fun, positive people. And I think that's going to get your students pretty far. There's some jobs and careers that are going to have, you're going to need some really hard technical skills, obviously. But all things being equal, they're usually going to hire the person who is just that much nicer and smiled that much more.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this long enough to tell you that, we've made decisions between, candidate A and candidate B based on the way they introduce themselves, the way they handle themselves around our employees and our customers, if you will. And that stuff is not important. That stuff's important in life, not just a career. So if I have a soapbox moment today, then that's it, right? Let's all stop and think about, we all talk about going back to normal, but I think this should be a wake-up call for everybody as to just how important we are to each other and how much we really should appreciate each other.
Wow, that's awesome. And I just want to say that you model that. Marcus, you are so positive and encouraging. You're fun to work with from a recruiting perspective. And it's always great when we have you on our campus. And you've participated in so many things to help build and grow our students, some professional development, networking opportunities. And so I just want you to know on behalf of our team how grateful we are for you. I know that it's hard, right, to be in a position like yours, to be a leader right now in a situation where you're you're around some people that are hurting right now and struggling. And so I think that it's such a great reminder to us to really be kind to each other. So thank you for your time this afternoon. We, again, are so grateful for you, and we look forward to seeing you in person
Yes, let's get back
very
to seeing each
soon.
other in person, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. So again, thank you so much. And students will have information on how to connect with Enterprise, their website, how to apply for their positions when they are ramping back up and hiring again. And we look forward to seeing you again. So Marcus, thank you.
Thank you guys so much. And one last word to your students. You guys got a great team at WT and Career Service. I work with a lot of career services teams, and you've got a top-notch team, so take advantage of it.
Thank you so much. We didn't even pay him to say that. So, yes, great. Well, thank you, Marcus.
Bye.
Bye-bye.